Hello and welcome to This Week in Property. I'm your host Richard Swan, and today we have the big light back on, the Property Pros Spotlight. And it's on not just for someone appearing for the first time. No, they've been on the show already, and their journey has taken so many twists and turns and has so much progress and development on it. We had to get him back, we had to drag him back under the light so he can share that story and help a lot of people out there who are hoping to do the same thing. And that is this gentleman here, Taylor McDonald. Taylor, welcome back.
Thank you very much, Richard.
Different studio, different wee setup. And I was looking at the kind of board on my way in this morning at the studio. January 22. Mm-hmm. That's when the last show came out, with yourself on it. And I think you were listening to the show on the way down the car.
We just finished it on the way down, I wanted to get an idea in my head of kind of where I was at the time.
Yeah.
And just to kind of see the difference from now. Like you said, it's only been, a year and 6 months, so a little bit longer than I thought.
Yeah.
And everything's completely different.
Did it feel like listening to someone else's story at times?
Almost,
Almost. Because there's been such a transition for you.
It feels... it was a totally different life. It's only been a year and a half, but my life is so different now. Everything's changed, and it was strange seeing where I was, because I remember how I felt and what I was doing and what I wanted to achieve, and thinking it was going to take so much longer. And
right, so the time element's quite a big thing for you, was it?
It feels like it's went so much quicker than I'd planned for or hoped for.
Right, and the weird thing is, back then, you were already talking about the changes, In fact, I mean, if you're comfortable chatting about it, one of the things you were kind of sharing quite openly and honestly at the time was that your life could have been very different. You shared that, and I even saw you at an event in Edinburgh just recently, and again, so open and honest with people around you. Just talk about your childhood, talk about environments, talk about certain kind of characters within and around your circle. Mm-hmm. Your life could have been radically different.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. It's something I've always struggled with, family-wise and friend-wise, and myself. Like, I can't blame anyone else. I was as bad as anyone else.
Right.
But I've always been a firm believer in monkey see, monkey do. And that excuse only supported me so long. Once I became an adult, I could make my own decisions. So the past doesn't really matter once you become a man, because going forward, it's down to you.
Yeah.
You can sit and blame everyone all you want, but it's you that has to change it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I have.
I mean, where could you have ended up? If we went to that place, what's worst case scenario?
Realistically,
if you gave in, if you didn't take responsibility, if you allowed others or environments or whatever to take you over, how could this story maybe have turned out?
I always feel, up till probably about 4 or 5 years ago maybe,
right,
my 3 options were pretty basic. It was either end up here today, end up in jail, or probably end up dead. Realistically, that was the main outlook it took. That was kind of the direction it went. And I've always found it difficult, because people have always been saying, oh, you're doing so well, and you're doing this, and you're doing that, and blah, blah, blah. I've always kind of downplayed it, because I'm like, this was just the easiest of the 3 options. This was just me picking the best of a bad bunch. So I've always kind of found it a bit difficult with the praise, to be honest. I've always felt like it's not really something worth praising. I just chose the best out of a bad bunch, you know what I mean? It wasn't like I always had this grand idea. I just didn't want to end up there. That was the main.
So I suppose it almost seems obvious to you. If someone's saying to you, well done. Well, yeah, because
the other option
could have been that.
Yeah.
Are you mad? What are you talking about? They don't know that, of course, when they're chatting to you.
It's something I'm also a bit uncomfortable with sharing. Like I said that to you guys in the beginning as well. It's not something I like talking about. It's quite embarrassing. It's quite uncomfortable.
Sure.
And it wasn't until I started sharing it more and more people reached out that I realised, shit, this could actually probably help other people.
Correct.
And as I was doing that, I realised it was actually helping me.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of selfishness in there, because I feel like I'm offloading as well at the same time.
Aye, you must be, yeah.
It's something that I haven't really ever done. Like, I've never really openly talked about it with anyone other than sort of Shan and a few other people. But the more I talked about it, the less uncomfortable it made me. And I realised it could help others as well, so I thought, fuck it, let's just go for it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, they talk about you bring something into the light and it lets the shadows kind of drift away. It takes the power off it.
It does.
Rather than something that's a secret or it's in the closet or you're kind of trying to shame or a guilt or anything at all. No, drag it out, put the light on it, talk about it, chat about it, analyse it, all different angles. and then it, you know, dismisses that pain. And whether it's just you doing it or you and a therapist doing it, some people like that, whether it's you chatting to your mates about it or a partner about it, you're kind of taking the sting out of it, you're taking the power away from it almost.
That's exactly how it feels, to be honest. That's the more open I am about it, the less uncomfortable it's made me feel. Because I remember the first time I stood on stage and talked about it, I was like literally shaking. I was so nervous and I was so worried about what I thought, not so much everyone else, but I knew what I thought about it.
Right.
So it made me so uncomfortable. And then the more and more I've talked about it, the more and more I'm like, you know what, it's just this thing that used to happen. It's just this thing I used to be, or I had, like, it was just this thing. And now it's no longer a thing. So I'm like, that's cool. We can talk about it without making me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, I like that. It's just a story. It's just a detail. Yeah, something in the past, as you said, you know, you moved on. But you're right, the element of helping others, I think, is important because, I mean, my God, I was talking to my daughters last night about this. You know, especially young folk, are bringing up, you know, Instagram, your Snapchats, your TikToks. You can find success everywhere. Yeah. You can find perfection everywhere. Like, you know, the lassies with the Photoshop bodies and the guy that's standing beside the Bugatti and all this kind of stuff. It's everywhere. And if you're watching that from your own position, whether it's a quote-unquote normal bringing or you've had some kind of trauma or some kind of challenges in your life, now all of a sudden you're feeling less. Look, I'm a failure. Look, everybody's winning. Yeah. It's a doddle for everybody. Well, there's that Taylor McDonald guy popping up again. Look at him. Look at him, his projects and his properties. And I wish it was easy for, you know, like him. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's your story that then breaks that. You're shattering that glass and saying, no. I'm here now, but this is what I had. And here was my choices. So now I could sit as you, oh, wait a minute. He's got it. I had it. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe there is hope for me. And now all of a sudden you're bringing them up to your level. You know, rather than they seeing you on a pedestal, this guy with an easy life. Oh, he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Oh, this guy knows nothing about challenges. You know, this big property investor guy. You know, you're on a pedestal, so they feel inferior. And the more you tell your story, you're lifting them up to your level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I definitely feel, and as well by sharing, I found that there's people out there that have got worse stories than I do.
That's the other angle, isn't it?
Absolutely no business feeling sorry for themselves. You know what I mean? You're never the worst and you're never the best. That's the one thing I realised. Like, there's always, my dad used to say it to me, there's always going to be someone bigger than you. There's always going to be someone that has it worse than you, and you're always like, ooh, whatever. Yeah. But you quickly realise that there is, and you can cry about it or you can get on about it. Like, there's no way in between for me. It's either just get on with it or let it consume you.
Yes, correct. That, those shadows, going back to that scenario, just keep a light off. Just let them consume me. Let me always live in the shadows. Let me wallow in this grief and regret and everything else.
It's easy to do it, but after a while you get sick of it.
Yeah, good.
You have to choose. Everything's a choice.
Yeah. I love that, man. I love the character of you. I love meeting you now and again, which is just brilliant, bumping into events and stuff and seeing your journey and seeing the different projects that are going on and all this kind of thing. You also spoken again. I'm conscious people might not have seen the first show. Make sure you go back. Have a wee go onto the website, use the links and use a little search function, take it back to Taylor, and you'll be amazed as well when you hear his story from just over a year ago to now. But the story as well as the businessman part of the puzzle. And that even became a challenge. That started to consume you. You know, so all of a sudden we've got a kind of story about childhood and how it could have went and stuff like that. But then we've got another story where it looks successful on the kind of front end. And you've got the money and profits and business and all these plant hires around you and stuff. But then that became a challenge as well. Because that started to consume you in a different way, didn't it?
It did. It was eating my soul, like literally. And I was just thinking about it as we were coming down. I didn't realise, but at the time I did the first episode, I was miserable. Like, I was so miserable. Right. But I didn't realise how bad I was until I stopped doing it. And the first sort of 2 or 3 weeks when I closed the business, I'd sold everything off and I was unsure. I was like, I don't know if I made a big mistake here or not. I was like, I jumped in feet first. I was like, I'm enjoying the property. I've had some success with it. I want to do it. And I knew that I just fucking hated what I was doing. And I was like, I either take the jump now and see how it goes, or I let it continue and it'll just swallow me whole. And when I actually stopped, it was about the first 2 weeks, my phone stopped ringing as much. I was walking the dog. I was just actually enjoying my life.
You were actually living.
And I was looking about and I was like, this is so strange. I was like, I don't have this crippling fear of my phone going or some problem or all these things that I was having to deal with every single day that I had no interest in it. Like you say, it was making money, it was enjoyable. I did enjoy building the business, but when it got to the point, I had no love for it. It was just this thing that I'd done, and I was forced to. That's what I felt like. I was forced to turn up every day. I had to be at work. I had to do this, and as soon as I have to, or I feel like I'm being forced to do things, my interest just goes clear out the window.
Right.
I just hate it. I'm like, I hate feeling that force. So we closed the business. So I sold all the machines off, sold the contracts off, closed everything down, took all that money, we've sunk it into properties, and we've done some flips since.
Yeah.
And now, like, I was just away on a 5-day stag do there with my friends, and I was saying to them yesterday night, we were sitting having tea, and I was like, do you know what, I can't wait to get back to work tomorrow. They all just looked at me, they're like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I honestly can't wait to get back to work tomorrow, I'm so excited. And they were just looking at me like I was an idiot, and I was like, nah, this is how it should be. I should be excited to turn up to work. I should be buzzing. Yeah. Instead of going, oh, I've got to go, but that force thing. I just hate it. I hated it.
Because that's the thing, some of them would have had that. It's like, oh God, jeez, man. Back in there, back into the office, back into the grind of it all. That's totally different lives.
Well, I've got friends that have businesses, and I've got friends that have jobs.
Yeah.
And some enjoy both and some don't enjoy both. So it's not necessarily having a business or having a job. It's just not enjoying what you do. Yeah. That could be a business or a job or whatever it is. Yeah.
That's important, actually. That's a kind thing to share as well for folks listening in and thinking about their own. It's about your life, you know, because when I started investing in property, I had no intentions of leaving my job. You know, I continued it. And folks who are listening, they can do that. They can learn how to invest on the side. And if you have a job that you do love and you go on holiday and you don't have a dread get back to it, then that's brilliant. That's great. That means you're doing something you enjoy. Exactly. So keep doing it. But you can still be an investor on the side, or a business owner on the side, or you might be that character. Nah, don't fancy employment, or I don't get it as much. My joy comes from building a business, and my joy comes from kind of being the leader or director or whatever. Fine, you do that as well. But the life part, you've only got one life.
100%.
You've only got one life. What do you want to do? How do you fancy living it? For you, whatever that is. Some guys, the big, it has to be private jets and all sorts. Fine, fill your boots. Somebody else says, nah, I've got a business selling pottery, and we've got 4 kids and we go a couple of holidays. Fill your boots, whatever you fancy.
I think that kind of ties back into the social media thing you mentioned as well. It's like, it's easy to turn your phone on and say, oh, this guy's been away 5 times, this guy's got a Lamborghini or black, like all these different things. And I think people get caught up thinking, oh, I want that, I want these things. And 9 times out of 10, you actually don't want the thing. Yeah. You're looking for peace of mind, security, happiness, freedom, all these things that money brings, but you assume that it's the stuff. Yeah. Yeah. And it's easy to get caught on that trap. I think I think most people would have been, but I've certainly been caught in the trap of buying things thinking it makes me better, it makes me smarter, it makes me happier. Yeah. And you soon realise that it's all worthless. Yeah. Like
especially when you get them.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, this means nothing, and I'm not happier. I'm not smarter. Yeah, I'm none of these things I thought I would be. Yeah. I've just got this thing. Yeah. I've just got this extra random piece of thing. Yeah. That doesn't actually make me feel any different. Yeah.
And the funny thing, and the things themselves, this goes back to what I talk to my own kids about, the things themselves aren't the problem. They're just things. It's just materials. A car's a car, a house is a house. Having a cracking big house is totally fine. I think it's the power that we give them. Aye. And you've painted that picture there. I'll get that and then I'll feel successful. Yeah. I'll get that and then I'll feel, approved of or accepted or whatever the label is inside, and then you get it and I don't feel that. Aye. I've now just got another car. I've now just got another whatever in the bank now. Yeah. I'm still me. I'm still the same. And it's kind of hard lesson. I'm trying to share with my own kids and stuff. Don't have a problem with chasing the stuff. You don't have to be some mad hermit living in a cave. Yeah. Unless that's your thing, of course. The things aren't the problem. It's the fascination with them. It's the power they get given them. And unfortunately, we live in that society. That's the message. Yeah. The message is, this is success. Yeah. This thing. Oh, is it? Oh, right, I didn't know that. And it's not.
The thing I've kind of learned more is like people value stuff and use people instead of using stuff and valuing people.
Oh, that's good. Oh, right, so write that down. I'm going to need to tell my kids that.
It took me a long time to learn myself, but like I realised my family's always going to be my family. My sisters will always be my sisters. My friends will always be my friends. Yeah. So I can have a 10-bedroom mansion, I can have a private, I can have all these things, but I've still got the same family, I've still got the same friends, I've still got the same, everything else is still the same.
Yeah.
So how does that add to my life? It doesn't. Like, you'd be better at adding to the relationships, and they will then in turn add to your life.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Yes. And I've also found experiences as well, more than things, you know, especially when it ties in with the relationship. Talk about your lovely partner, talk about your family, your friends and stuff. It's actually the time you're with them. And that's something that I love taking out of my business or my investments. You know, it's not taking out stuff to buy a material thing, which we'll do from time to time because they're just things, but it's more so to then go and have the experiences and have those memories together. Because see, when you look back in those photographs and stuff with your partner, your kids, whatever it is, it's like, aye, that's life. That was me living.
Yeah.
You know,
for us, that's what we prefer to do anyway. I would much rather, like, we've just been to Mexico there for 2 weeks. I've always wanted to go. I went to see the pyramids. We've seen so many different things.
No way, did you?
On my list for years and years.
Jealous.
But we probably couldn't justify, like, we spent quite a bit more than we normally would.
Yeah.
Again, because it's an experience, it's not a thing, so it's something we'll always remember. We can look back on it. It was so good.
Yeah.
And it's something I've wanted to do for so long as well, and it's seared in my brain now.
Yeah.
So I can always look back and think
it's
about
a shared experience. You both did it together.
Exactly.
So now you can both talk about it forevermore.
Exactly. I
remember the thing, and that looks like a pyramid. This also it does. Yeah, those wee kind of shared things inside you. God, we're getting dead deep here. I shouldn't be talking to my girls the night before having a kind of This Week in Property show. No, but I think it's important. You know, I think it's really important so that folks who are listening and watching and they can analyse themselves. So what is it I want to do? Mm-hmm. How do I want my life to look? What does success look like for me? Mm-hmm. And then how do I then want to build that? And whether it is, I've got a great job and I want to build this on the side, whether I want to do a full, 180 turn, suit yourself. But make sure you know the mountain you want to climb first, rather than all that effort. And you get to the top of the mountain, you're like, well, this is the wrong one. It's happened over there. Oh shit, I climbed the wrong mountain.
I kind of feel like that's kind of the situation I was in when I closed the other business.
Right.
I felt like I'd climbed to the top. Yeah. I was looking about and I was like, this is not what I was like, this isn't what I wanted. I was there and I was like, shit, I've made a mistake.
There's a life
went up the wrong hill, do you know what I mean?
And there's one hill of a hill and all the cliffs and I climbed and my hands are bleeding.
That's exactly how I felt.
Yeah.
And it was a big relief.
Yeah, good on you, mama. Good on you. And here you are, still ploughing ever further. What has been some of the kind of biggest changes when you do look back? You know, you've listened to that show, driving down here, it's amazing the kind of distance you've came from up north in Scotland. When you do look back, you think, wow, that's mental, I forgot about that. Mm-hmm. And now I'm here. What is kind of, when you summarise some of the stuff that surprised you?
To be honest, the biggest things, I'm much healthier. And I'm much happier.
So again, it's a personal thing.
That's the biggest thing. Like, wow. I was thinking about it on the way. I was like, business-wise, business is fine, but I'm much better now.
Brilliant.
I was working 6 days a week, sometimes 7, 12 hours a day. I was eating shit. I was drinking all the time because I was so stressed. I wasn't training enough. I was in a bad way. I was overweight and I was unhealthy.
And it just becomes a cycle, doesn't it?
It just gets worse and worse, and you feed into it, and oh well, I'm busy, so I'll grab a takeaway. Oh well, it's the weekend and I'm so stressed and I'm thinking about all these things. Right, I'll have a few whiskies to calm my brain, and then it just becomes this vicious cycle that you're just in, and it's so difficult to break.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until again I stopped and I started going back to the gym and I'd been eating healthier, and like I think I've dropped about 13, 14 kilos since then.
Wow.
I've not been drinking nowhere, and like obviously I'm back from a stag do there, so
that doesn't count.
I've had a few drinks. I had a few drinks the last week because we were away, but other than that, I've been drinking a great deal. I've been training probably 8 or more times a week on average.
Wow.
And I just feel much better, and that's what I was wanting, because I felt awful.
Yeah.
Like, and I didn't realise how bad it was until it stopped.
Yeah.
And now I look back at it again and I'm like, nah, it's came up so much. It's night and day there.
So that there again, health, feeling, peace of mind, this kind of stuff. You can't show that over an Instagram reel.
No.
You can't show it as an object.
Yeah.
Oh, look, I got the peace of mind car. What are you talking about? But it's absolutely priceless.
Yeah.
And if you build your life in the proper way, if you stay aware, if you're kind of taking care of your relationships and stuff, taking care of yourself, then that can come. That success can actually come.
The thing that I would say as well is, like, it's not to say that I do still like to have nice things.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
since then, I've bought a new car, and we've been on a couple of great trips, and we have been living a better life than we were before, because
Yeah.
we have more spare money now.
Yep.
But that's not why I did it, and that's not why I would keep doing it.
Yeah.
It feels like it's a byproduct of being happier. Mm-hmm. That's what it kind of feels like.
I love it.
And the more happy I get, hopefully the more money I make.
That's it. That's it.
But I don't want it to be the more money I make, the more happier I am.
Correct.
I want it to be the more happier I am, the more money I make.
Yeah.
So that it depends on the happiness, not the money.
Yeah, actually, talking about that kind of relationship between the money and the happiness and stuff, you're reminding me the studies they talk about a lot. I think it was Harvard or someone did it in America, because they did it in dollars. It was something like, don't quote me there, it was something like $75,000, something like that. And they could show that people would generally feel better rising up to that level, because if you can imagine some a single mother in a ghetto in Los Angeles or something, really struggling, 5 jobs, just trying to survive.
Yeah.
That's bad, that's hard, the stress on you, the stress on your mind and everything. So the bigger that she can get in the numbers game, the easier she's going to feel, and then more and more. But there's then a ceiling, and they found that ceiling, however they found it, and anything above that, it diminished, the returns diminished. So the millionaire or the billionaire never had any more less stress or more happiness than that struggling mum who got up to that level. There was a kind of fall-off point. It's a kind of weird one,
I think I've seen that as well. It's like a lot of corporate types are miserable, and they're making 150 grand a year, but they absolutely hate their lives.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, is it worth the trade-off? Probably not. Like, not to me anyway, but I see a lot of folk like that, like, oh, I'm offshore, but I'm away 6 months of the year, but I earn fantastic money. And it's like, yeah, but you don't see your kids.
Yeah.
And you spend half your life in a tin box in the middle of the ocean.
No.
So is it worth the trade? Maybe not. Like, and that's just one example. There could be solicitors, there could be so many bankers, different people. None of them seem to be overly happy. And like you say, it's that happy medium. It's having enough to live the comfortable life you want to, without having to do all this mad stuff to get it.
Yeah. No, totally. Just selling your life to try and make the money. It's crazy. And on the kind of project side of it, property side of it, what's the changes you've seen there? More projects, different projects, bigger projects. What's been the transition for you?
More, bigger, and defined. more, bigger, and defined. Both of them. So we've kind of changed our strategy.
Right.
Going forward, we're kind of only looking at flips to bring in cash.
Right.
And from the cash that we make from the flips, investing in the service accommodation.
So
That's kind of the model we're following for ourselves just now. And bigger projects, we're looking at a few bigger projects just now as well. They take a little bit longer.
Yeah.
We're kind of partnering up with different people on them as well, just to spread the load, spread the investment, and to gain more knowledge as well. Like, the one thing I've learned is the more people you bring on, maybe not just bring on everyone, but the more people you work with, you're going to learn from every person you work with. And the more you learn from individuals, the more smart I become.
Exactly.
So if I can work with 5 people over the course of a year, by the end of that year, I'll have a little bit of information from each one that immediately makes me better, which means going on to the 6th, I'm up a level. This is the way I kind of viewed it going forward. So I'm just looking to work with not as many people, because that sounds a bit terrible, but I'm looking to work with more people, more intelligent people, more people on the same wavelength, looking to do the same thing and doing it collectively.
Because that's relationships as well. You're building quality business relationships. And that's probably the biggest kind of change I had in my own kind of investing life, is when I started doing it with others. Because it's so difficult doing it yourself, isn't it?
It's a lot.
Hear the stories of all these landlords on their own, and they've got 1 or 2 properties, and they're really struggling, and they're stressed out, and they're trying to balance that with a home life and a business life and everything else. And it's tough. It can be really tough, because it's all on you. All the choices, the risks, the rewards, the hassles, the challenges, it's all on you. And as soon as I started to collaborate with other people, it was like, oh, I feel a bit lighter. You have that feeling. And then someone else can have a brilliant idea that you've not even thought of. Oh, of course. Why did I not say that?
Exactly.
Someone else has got another way of looking at something, and you're sharing that and then learning from each other as well. Yeah, I love that. And the kind of the tactic with the flips and the money and service accommodation, etc., very much a conscious choice, kind of replanning, re-strategizing.
Yeah, definitely a conscious choice. It's more just to speed up my end goal, which again always changes But the end goal is really to just kind of build the portfolio up to be a decent size where we don't have to go out and work every day.
Right.
Again, I love what I do now, and I'm happy. I work probably more now than I did before.
Yeah. That's the weird thing about it.
That's the weird,
Yes.
yeah. But
You do more. You don't. You kind of almost don't work more. You know, I always struggle with that. People tell me, or when you got a day off, or when you're like, doesn't kind of work like that. I just kind of choose that I want to do this or I want to do that today. You know, which is a big, powerful thing.
before I felt like I had a job, whereas now I feel like I've just got a totally different lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like I have a job because I get to, we work from home, we do everything from home, we do everything together. So I wake up, walk the dog, work all day, go to the gym. I can choose my own day how I want.
Yeah.
All I really want to do now is work and train, which is funny because when I didn't have the choice before, the only things I didn't do was work as hard and train as hard.
Yeah.
Because I was being forced and hemmed into it.
Yeah.
So I feel like as soon as I've taken that force away, all I want to do is the things that I didn't want to do before, which is it's kind of strange.
It's weird, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's like when someone says don't touch the cooker and you're like, fuck.
Come on.
I've always been like, I always need to burn my fingers to know it's hot.
Oh, God. I might not be the best listener.
You learn quickly that.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, quickly.
And the training part of the puzzle, martial arts, jiu-jitsu, that's a big thing for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
So before I've always been interested in MMA and MMA as a whole, but I found by doing a little bit of Muay Thai, a little bit of MMA, a little bit of jiu-jitsu, a little bit of weights, I was doing my usual and I was loading too many things on and I wasn't really progressing with any of them.
Right.
I was kind of getting on a wee bit on each one and I didn't feel I was making any big jumps. So I decided to just dial that right down and I've just been focusing solely on jiu-jitsu for probably about the last year now.
Right.
And I feel anyway, and a few of my teammates have said as well that I've came on quite a bit since then.
Right.
Been promoted to my blue belt, I've had quite a few different competitions and stuff. And I just feel much better with it because I've only got two focuses now, work, jiu-jitsu.
It's a focus, that's what you've done, rather than being kind of generalist with the Muay Thai and everything. No, let's just look here.
One thing and let's dial down into it and let's see how far we can push it.
Yeah.
And just doing that alone has came on so much better. And it's with work and with training, everything just came right on in the last year just by focusing on them too.
Yeah, so you're saying when you talk about the kind of focus on the flips and the focus on when you divert this into the cash flow strategy with service accommodation, you're seeing focus there as well paying dividends for you?
Both.
Yeah.
That's like when I've got laser beam focus on flips and SA and my training. And all we seem to be getting is flips and SA. all the leads that come
once
in.
you focus.
Yeah. And I'm like, we're looking at it, I'm like, oh, that's a cracker. And then another one comes in, I'm like, oh, that's an absolute. I'm like, where are all these deals coming from? These are brilliant deals. And they're perfectly suited for what we need.
Yeah.
So it's turning out good. It's working out quite fine.
That's tremendous. Yeah, that is one of those funny things in life, someone starts looking for a red Porsche or something, and then all of a sudden that's all they see. Where have they been?
Yeah.
It's bizarre. And let's dip into strategies and stuff. So service accommodation, some folks listening in might be that, just an accidental landlord with a wee buy to let and stuff. How would you explain the kind of power or benefits or appeal of SA to those kind of folks? What is it and why should they at least think about it?
Well, for me anyway, the benefit to me is I could buy one SA or 5 buy-to-lets. So that's really the main benefit for me. And it'll take you 6 months to buy the property, renovate the property, rent it out. And it'll take you the same 6 months to buy the property, renovate the property, and put it on Airbnb.
Yeah.
So you're using the same time, a little bit more capital, not a massive amount different. Yeah, you'll spend a bit more, but not massive amounts more.
Yeah.
But you're getting a much bigger income.
Yeah.
So again, instead of doing 1 or 2 a year, that would maybe generate an extra £500, £600, £700 a month. That 1 or 2 a year could generate an extra 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, depending on the properties.
Yeah.
So instead of needing 50 buy-to-lets, we might only need 10 service accommodations.
Yeah.
Which drastically reduces the time that I need to be working at this rate.
Yes, exactly. That's a true investor. You're getting better returns for your input, and it's time and money. It's effort, it's money, it's focus, it's everything about it. Yeah. And if someone tries to push back, wait a minute, SA, I've heard about this. I mean, Scotland, already big legislation. I'm hearing about England that's going through the process. They're probably going to do it as well. What would you say to that kind of pushback?
Legislation isn't always a terrible thing. It can be a pain in the arse in the beginning because you've got the hoops to jump through, and especially in Scotland, each council released different information.
Yeah. So that's been the biggest challenge, isn't it?
Realistically, it's just figuring out, right, so this one, they're focused on having its own singular door. This one's more about that. Like, it's all got the different focuses.
Yeah.
But generally, it seems to be the same within reason. And now they've kind of found their feet with it as well. It's just a case of going through the rigmarole.
It's kind of stamped to bed in now, isn't it?
Aye.
There'll be continual change, don't get me wrong, but it's getting to that piece where I think this is what we do now.
It's not as scary as it was when it was first released back in October last year, when they're like, right, if you don't have a license, you can't trade. And everyone's like, oh my God, we can't do SA anymore. And you're like, that's not what they said. You just like, it's the same. Everyone always overreacts.
Correct. All the amateurs overreact. It's the pros who's going to stand back and say, what does this mean? What's happening?
It's the
What's
same
my options?
with the interest rates and everything else that's been going on. Everything,
Good point.
Stuff will always change.
Yep.
Nothing will ever stay the same. So some things will become easier, some things will become harder, some things will become more profitable, some things will become less profitable. So change isn't a bad thing. It's just figuring out what's the good points, what's the bad points, right? Use them to our advantage.
Yeah.
So it's just about analyse the situation, figure it out, and then move forward.
Do you think that's one of the keys to how you're succeeding, your adaptability? Because I'm thinking about you in the jiu-jitsu world as well. That's problem solving, isn't it?
Yeah.
On a physical level.
Yeah.
And now you're doing it in business. So you've kind of built a whole business in the past that you sold off. And no doubt you had to adapt through that marketplace as well. And right, that's that done. Now you're in the property world and you're kind of adapting to things. You're speaking about legislation and strategies and so on and so forth. Is that one of your kind of key powers, do you think?
I always try to be as adaptable as possible. Like, even if you look at just the animal kingdom as a whole, those that adapt are those that survive.
Yeah.
Simple. Like, the ones that last the longest are the ones that adapt the quickest. So if you can't adapt, you're going to get left behind.
That's a brilliant point about the animal kingdom, because that's another thing I was sharing with my daughters. That's the proper Darwin quote, apparently.
Yeah.
Because everyone always says what did they say? Survival of the strongest.
Survival of the fittest.
And that's
It's
not what
it's the most adaptable that
his
survives.
full paragraph actually ends with saying that.
It's actually based on this type of dragon on a little island.
Yeah, was it the kimono? Or
Something like that. And they
Aye.
weren't aquatic. They weren't able to go in the water in the beginning.
Yeah.
And the ones that learned survived.
Yeah.
And they started fishing and hunting.
Yeah.
The ones that didn't died. Simple.
Yeah, no matter how strong they were.
It's really
how
simple.
big they
Yeah,
were.
you can't fish, but we can, so you'll die and we won't.
Yeah.
They taught their kids how to fish, and now look who's alive.
Yeah.
Like, they adapted and they survived.
It's chat's going all over the place. I love this. That's why I love having you chat to. And if I jump you back to what you said there, interest rates, the market, the economy, oh my God, governments, interest rates going through the roof, Bank England, cost of living, this, that and the other. How do you view things at the moment, and where do you kind of see things going?
More difficult than it was. It definitely has made it more difficult, especially for buy-to-let. There is more rates and stuff, higher rates, things like that. But if you change your strategy again, like we have, the SA still works. It still works fine. So yeah, you're paying a couple more % on the mortgage, but you're still making plenty of profit.
Yeah.
So if you're still
you're
making
covering them.
it's
The
like,
numbers still work.
it's maybe not as profitable as it was a year ago.
Yeah.
But it's certainly more profitable than other options.
Yeah.
So it's just pick what works for you and go for it.
Yeah. I suppose the one problem is when people don't have your brain, they don't buy properly. You know, they haven't educated themselves, they haven't done their due diligence properly. They're now struggling. They're now, the margins are way down, or they might even be negative.
Yeah.
And that is not investor territory.
That tends to be the biggest, the most amount of sellers we deal with anyway, are that type of investor.
Is that right?
They bought at the market, at market value, at peak market times. They've rented it out. They've not added any value. They've done all these things. They've just literally bought it off Rightmove and put someone in it thinking this is great. Which isn't, again, it's not a terrible plan. It's better than not investing at all, I would say.
This is true. Aye. At least they've took some action.
Aye.
Yeah.
But now that their margin has dramatically decreased with these interest rates, these are most of the people we're seeing selling off.
Yeah.
And these are the people we're trying to help.
Right, so you're actually seeing it on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, and being able to help these people. It's sad, but the fact you can at least help some of them is a bonus.
Not all of them. Again, not everyone can get the tenant out with this new legislation. Not everyone, they can't sell at the price they need, and they can't take the decreased price that is maybe worth now.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are losing money, and a lot of people are having to hold on to properties that are costing them money as well.
Yeah.
So you can't help everyone.
No.
But we can do our best.
And the areas that you're in, you're up kind of north end of Scotland. How would you describe it to folks? Maybe someone's in London and think, wait, is he in Glasgow? Is he in Edinburgh? No, you're a kind of different environment, aren't you?
So we cover pretty much anywhere between Dundee and Aberdeen up the north east coast.
Right. Right.
So it's quite a large area.
Uh-huh.
We tend to focus more on Aberdeen than Dundee,
Right.
but we will cover between the whole area.
Right, okay. And more a spread out geography then, kind of smaller towns and so on.
It's just a collection. of
Rural
small-
as well.
Exactly. It's a collection of small towns all up and down the coast, and then we do some work in the cities. Like I say,
Uh-huh.
doing more work in Aberdeen just now.
Right.
We're finding that market is...
Aye, how is that kind of city behaving? Because obviously it's a big oil market, you know.
It depends who you speak to. It depends who you... I personally find it quite a good market because as a whole, Aberdeen's used to having money. They're used to having the oil money. They're used to having the income. They're used to living life up here.
Right.
Just now, they're maybe not quite up here. They've dropped a little bit. The oil's dropped. A lot of the investments came out. A lot of the money's came out.
Right.
Prices are at their lowest in probably 15, 20 years.
Really?
You're picking some deals we've been picking up. We've got a property there. The owner paid 178,000 for it about 6 years ago.
Right.
We can now get it for 100,000.
Really?
And I'm like, well, if you,
6 years ago?
it's really not that long.
Wow.
And this is putting a lot of people off. But to me, I'm like, well, it's really not going to drop much more.
Yeah.
When you're looking at sort of 40% drops, it's not going to drop much more. It can't. The property still holds certain values. The rents are still quite high as well, so your yields are dramatically pushed up compared to other areas.
Right.
So, and in my opinion as well, in the next 5 to 10 years, there's a lot of renewables coming on, there's a lot of new projects coming out, there's a lot of new development coming in.
Right.
So they're going to regain their place where they were. They're not going to just be content where they are now as a city as a whole.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, now's the perfect time to buy in Aberdeen because in the next 5-10 years, you're going to get some severe growth.
That's tremendous. That's tremendous. And can you find those deals for other investors? Are you doing that at the moment at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actively sourcing just now for different clients, different investors. Sorry.
Right.
I've just took Shan on full time, so we're both in the business now. And now that again you mentioned having more time, more help, I can focus more on the investor side of it.
Brilliant.
Before it was mostly just ourselves, our own deals and our own stuff. But now we're actively helping more investors and we're doing a lot more sourcing now as well.
Magic. And if I'm an investor listening to this just now, obviously I want to kind of reach out to you and stuff. Is it a return for my money you can get? Do you build portfolios for me? Do you source for me? Is it a bit of all? Where do you kind of look at yourself with services?
The one thing I always say about investors is never one size fits all.
Yeah.
So everybody has their own goal and their own ideas in mind.
Yeah.
So we can source the property for you. If you want to do the renovations, you do everything else, you can do that. That's not a problem.
Right.
We can work side and side. We can do a joint venture. We can give you a fixed return for your money if you want to get involved, but you don't want hands off. You're looking for no sort of work. It really depends on your situation. Depends on how hands-on or hands-off you want to be. Depends on the service we can offer and provide.
Nice one. There you go. So folks listening, watching, excuse me, whenever it's safe to do so, go into the show notes. All the links are there to get in touch with Taylor. And reach out. Maybe that's something you're looking for. You know your money's not getting the return that it should do through the banks, and you know that property is a better game to play in, if you like. And even with Aberdeen, you're talking to is supply and demand.
Yes.
The supply and the demand is there. So those market forces, they never die out.
Yeah. And especially with Aberdeen, the thing we've seen with the rents sort of in the last 6 months, the rents have shot up.
Wow.
Like majorly shot up. You've seen one bedrooms going for £600, sometimes £700, and I'm like,
One bed?
It's crazy. For something that you can pick up for 50 grand. 60,
Yeah.
Like the yields are actually unbelievable.
Wow.
But so many people are put off because, Aberdeen's prices have dropped. I'm like, that's exactly the time to buy. Prices have dropped, rents are up. What more do you want? Yeah, like what more do you actually want?
God.
But so many people are still nervous because of the drop.
Yeah.
But it's only going to do that once.
Yeah.
Like, realistically, there's not going to be another 40% reduction. And if there is, we're all fucked. To not be
So folks like the full economy. And on I'm going to tie two pieces together. Then you've got an awareness and involvement in the service accommodation market. We're talking about economies like Aberdeen and the workforce and stuff. A lot of folk don't realise that that's what service accommodation can actually help with and benefit from. Because a lot of folks will hear, service accommodation, that's the Airbnb stuff. Yeah, I do that. Me and the missus go away for the weekend. But that's not where a big chunk of the market is, isn't it not?
It's more probably, I would say 70% contractors, 30% homemakers. Again, depending on your area.
Yeah.
You'll have areas that are absolutely heaving with tourists.
More touristy.
Your Edinburghs, your St Andrews, your really nice places that people go to visit. But there's places that there's really big projects going on. There's wind farms getting built. There's new hospitals, there's nuclear reactors, there's all these big projects that are going on, and they have workforces that need places to stay.
Yeah.
And this is where you see predominantly most of the income coming from your serviced accommodations. And it's reliable, it's consistent, they're there for a long period of time, they tend to be there for the week and away home with their families at the weekend, so it's actually really quite beneficial and not nearly as much hassle as you would think.
Well, exactly, because if you think about that demographic of that guest who's inside, they're hardly spending any time in there.
Exactly.
The reason they're staying there is because of the work.
Yeah.
So they're maybe going out most of the day and building that wind farm or whatever, you know, and then going to a restaurant or something. Exactly. So your asset is taking less of a hit.
Yeah.
There's less wear and tear.
Exactly.
And as you said, it's more reliable, it's more dependable. It's not someone paying for a weekend, you know, a kind of couple away for a wee trip together. It's someone who needs, you know, 5 guys up there over a, you know, 7-week period or whatever the heck it is.
So we've actually just sold a house up in Ferrydown, which is very close to the port in Montrose.
Right.
And we were going to be keeping that and renting it to these contractors. That was the intention.
Ah.
But as we were doing the renovation and putting the pictures up and doing the social medias and stuff, we had a couple reach out and they wanted to buy the property before it was even finished. So we were quite pleased with that. We were like, this is excellent. This is cash in the bank. It's fine. Easy sale. Ticks all the boxes.
Yep.
And once we'd actually agreed the sale and it was in the process of the conveyancing, the company we've been using to get the contracts for the contractors got in touch, and they had a 13-month contract for 5 guys for the house. And I was like, oh, we've just sold it, so we can't manage, blah, blah, blah. And I went back the next day and I actually did the numbers, and I was like, shit, what have we done? I was like,
13-month
it worked out to be 47.5 grand.
Wow.
For 13 months rent.
One contract.
We would have pocketed about 30, 35. Which turns out to be what, just shy of 3 grand a month?
Yeah.
For something you would put on the rental market for 1,200, maybe pocket
Exactly.
250, 300.
That's where you really see the
It's
differences.
a crazy difference. Like 5 of them and you're making 15 grand a month.
Wow.
In theory, obviously.
Yeah, that's right. If you
It's-
guess it, if you nail those.
It's quite impressive, and it stung me. I considered pulling out the sale, but I was like, I can't do that. It's a bit unkind. But it's good to know that the demand's there.
Yes.
And that's a good, as much as it was disheartening to know that we couldn't get that particular contract, it's good to know that those contracts are readily available.
Yeah, the opportunities are there. And for those kind of buy-to-let investors that are listening to that and thinking, oh my God, the returns, that's incredible. Mm-hmm. How should they also think about preparing those kind of places? How hard is it to set these places up for service accommodation? All the furniture and the linen and the cleaning and oh my God. How do you look at it?
It is definitely more work. Definitely more work. It depends on if you want to do the work yourself or you want to hire in a third-party company to manage all that and take on the control of that for you.
Right.
We would personally do that. We would take on a company and we would have them bring the contract in and manage it.
Yeah.
Because then that gives us more time to focus on the business.
Yeah.
If you're maybe looking for 1 or 2 yourself, like you said, me and the wife will do it, or me and my pal, whatever.
Yeah.
You find those types of people tend to manage them themselves, clean them themselves, all that sort of stuff.
Right.
It probably still works quite fine. Mm-hmm. For me, it sounds like a bit of a hassle.
Yeah, it's down to the person, isn't it?
Aye, person.
Aye, that's it.
If you've got 1, it's probably quite easy. If you've got 10, your phone's probably not going to stop.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not in the market to have a busy phone anymore.
Yes.
So, again, it purely depends on your personal preference.
Yeah. I like that. You can design these things the way you want to.
Exactly.
It's funny that I know so many people, they'll do flips and they just can't be bothered with it. I'm not doing anything on it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm handling the teams, or maybe I'm just the kind of money man for this project. It's a joint venture. And then other people are like, oh, I'm all in. I'm getting the boiler suit on. I want to do the rip out. I actually want to do the rip out, or I want to pick the colours for the kitchen and this, that, and the other. Do what you fancy.
Yeah.
You know, you do you.
See, in the beginning, I was that guy as well.
Yeah.
And I do. I thoroughly enjoy getting about. I enjoy seeing the transformation of it as well. But the only thing we kind of had to deal with is, like, if you've got 4 or 5, however many projects on the go, you just don't have the time. It's just simply a time issue. You don't have the time to do all these things. So you have to then delegate and get other people in.
Yeah.
And then once we started doing that, I was like, yeah, we're managing much quicker here, actually. So it's easier without me involved. Like, actually works easier and smoother.
That's your full team nodding in agreement. Yeah, it's a lot easier with him involved. Brilliant. Now, listen, I want to be respectful for your time. Let's talk about the future then.
Okay.
What are the kind of immediate plans? Where did we say? We spoke about the strategy, what you're focusing on.
Yeah.
Have you set any goals, any milestones, or do you just want it to head in a certain direction? How do you view the future these days?
I do set goals. I set regular goals. But at the same time, I don't like to attach myself too much to them.
Yeah.
The direction's more important than the milestones, I think.
Yes.
As long as we're heading in the direction we're meant to be, it's all right.
Yeah.
You might not hit this milestone. You might not make that much. You might make more one year. You might make less one year.
Yeah.
But as long as you're heading in the general direction, that's the main aim for us.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to increase.
Yeah.
I want to increase the number of units. I want to increase the volume. Not the volume, sorry, but the income from the units.
Right.
So something
right.
we're looking at now, I can't say a great deal about it because we're in the middle of it, but we're looking to turn quite a large building that's currently a guest house
Right.
into 11 individual apartments as an apart hotel.
Right,
It's in
okay.
a cracking location, loads of traffic. We're quite confident it would be booked up more than what we've planned for. So looking for these types of assets, instead of having a single house, looking for something, right, how can we get 10 apartments in here or
Yeah.
multiple units,
Uh-huh.
earning the higher income, so then we only need 1 or 2 or maybe 3 of these things instead of a portfolio of 20 properties that do individuals, or maybe 50 buy-to-lets. We only need 3 units.
Yeah, you're sweating the assets more, aren't
Exactly.
you? Yeah, I love
Exactly.
that. I'm conscious of jargon and helping folks out. We mentioned apart hotel. Explain that to the folks.
It's basically, how do I make this simple? Instead of a hotel room, it's basically like a condensed small apartment. You've got a little kitchenette, you've got an ensuite and a bed. It's basically a small one-bedroom bed set that you've got full access to. Not quite a hotel, not quite an apartment. It's in between.
Someone was trying to tell me the other week that it's like an HMO for guests. You know that difference?
Aye.
Because the buy-to-let person, they don't have guests, they have tenants.
Yeah.
And then the service accommodation guy, he's got guests, they're
Yeah.
coming and going and stuff. And obviously if you step it up a bit more, it's a bigger property, it's an HMO, I've got more tenants.
Yeah.
Okay, it's cool, and it's, as you said, en suites and kitchenettes and all sorts of things. But the apart hotel, it's an idea that's really taken off in a lot of towns. I've noticed in Scotland,
I think it's down to people as well. People want a bit more convenience and privacy.
Yeah.
I notice it when we go away to hotels. 9 times out of 10, we'll stick the thing on the door saying "Don't come in."
Yeah.
Come in and turn it over. We went away for 2 weeks where it turned over 3 or 4 times. Every day seems a bit wasteful. You don't want people in about your stuff. You want a bit of privacy.
Yeah.
So it gives you that benefit. We have this little apartment. We have our own space that nobody else can come into.
Yeah.
But it's also quite serviced, quite well positioned. It gives you the benefit of both.
Yeah.
And that's just going from our experience. That's what we prefer.
Yeah,
That's what we
yeah.
tend to find more people are starting to lean towards now as well.
Yeah, because it's kind of home from home, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's less of that cookie cutter thing. You go to some Hilton hotel. I went, is this the one we were in last? No, that was Paris. This looks the same, and this is New York. This is weird.
I still think there's been we've discussed it as well, but I discussed it with other people saying that hotels are dying. I would agree with that to an extent, but hotels are still nice because you've got other people, you've got restaurants, you've got bars, you can socialise. So depending on where I'm going and who I'm going with depends on where I stay.
Yeah.
If I'm going away myself, I'll stay in a hotel because there's other people I can speak to.
Yeah.
If I'm going away with friends or my girlfriend, I'll stay in an apartment because we're together, things like that.
Yeah.
So I choose my stays on who I'm with and what I'm doing. And I think most people would probably be the same.
No, I like that. It's giving all these different services, isn't it? It's choice. And we've got loads of that these days just everywhere you look. So as investors, as landlords, as property owners, we're just adding to that. We're giving more choice for different people. I love it. Challenges. Looking back to that last show, January last year, to now, what's been some of or the biggest challenge?
Work-wise or just in general?
Whatever you want to take it.
Work-wise would probably be, I would say, my focus and getting my system set.
Right.
Once I got all my systems dialed in and my focus was more accurate, things started to take off a bit better because I was quite sporadic before. I was quite unorganised. I was trying to do 10, 15, 20 different things and it was quite a chore. So as soon as I sort of simplified everything down, got a few different systems in place with each thing that I needed to do and just focused on it, that started to make work easier and more efficient, which I found was much better. So focus and systems would be for work.
Right.
Personally, I was actually just, we were on about that on the way down and been thinking about it a bit more recently, but personally the biggest challenges since the last show is I lost my granddad and I also lost my dog in the space of about 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And that was probably the most difficult thing for myself.
Yeah.
But it was the thing I needed to push me. It kind of pushed me over the edge.
Right. What do you mean by that? Is it teaching you about the fragility of life, or what?
Both, yeah, both. It made me value life a lot more.
Right.
And it made me want to work a lot harder because it's not guaranteed.
Right. Okay.
And yeah, I would say that.
It was a sore but a timely reminder for you, was
Yeah.
it? Yeah. Wow. That is big. And on the lighter side of things, you know, milestones, achievements, or happiness or satisfaction when you look at that, you know, what's kind of popped up through those kind of a wee period, if you like?
Getting back to the gym's probably been the biggest satisfaction for me. Getting back to the gym, focusing on my exercise and my training,
Right.
losing a heap of weight, and just feeling better. And that helped me get over sort of all the other things. Do you know what I mean? It was just something to focus on, something to throw myself into, and it helped me come out the other end quite fine.
Right. Brilliant, my man. I love it. Should we pencil in the third show now? Should we throw a day into the diary for next year?
I'm easy. We'll just keep coming back every time.
I need you to come back from Monaco. We've got another show to fill. Listen, I can't wait. I cannot wait. I'm excited, you know, to see how that next chapter is going to come. The stuff you're already doing, the success you're already finding, the development in yourself, the way that you're helping people around you, the way you're helping people who are watching you as well. I just love it. I love it to bits. I think you're doing a lot of good in the world, and it's just tremendous. So well done, my man.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming back on the show.
It's alright.
It's alright.
Anytime. No. Anytime. I love it. I love coming down. I love doing the podcast. I love doing the events as well. Like I say, every time I do either a podcast or the event, I always feel better for it. And it might be quite selfish doing it for that reason, but if I can help someone else and feel a bit better, then I don't see any.
It's a win-win.
Exactly.
Tremendous.
Exactly.
There you go, folks. Taylor McDonald. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's show as much as I did. Remember, with the guests that you just saw, go into the show notes for the page, because all of their links are there so that you can get in touch and to get more information. And talking about getting more information, more guests, more insights, more knowledge, etc., make sure you're subscribed. Get the subscription done, get the notifications on, and then we'll always keep in touch with you every single time a brand new show is going to come out. So thanks for tuning to This Week in Property.